Hey, it's Nicole. Welcome back to the show. So excited to have you and to introduce you to our guest today. Michelle Vroom and I are friends. Okay, not in IRL, but definitely all over social media. I bump into her and I'm always encouraged or called out, frankly, by what she has to say. So I'm so excited for you to listen in today, and maybe you will be encouraged and or called out on a few things too. Michelle is a business coach with more than 15 years of marketing and PR experience. She has it all from nonprofits, agencies, and big corporations too. She now helps small business owners grow to six figures with more freedom and peace. She believes every woman entrepreneur should be able to get the clients whenever she wants. Hey, if you're an entrepreneur who usually fast forwards intros just like this one, this is the podcast for you. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited for this conversation.
Welcome. I'm excited just because your name pumps me up. Vroom. It's like, let's go.
Hey, just a reminder, our show is brought to you by SmartCookie Media, where we believe data tells a story, and not just any story, your business story. As a subscriber to the show or as a client, you'll get insights on profitable, data-driven marketing strategies that work for you and your business, your industry. Not some cookie cutter trends, no. Ideas that are led by your customer data so you know they'll work for you. Connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram to learn more. Everything's in the show notes. Now, let's get back to the show. Tell me, how would you finish this sentence? You know you're an entrepreneur when
you live in yoga pants and flip-flops. I change, the shirt that I'm wearing depending on what Zoom meeting I've got going on. Nobody can see, so.
I say the same thing all the time, Michelle, in case you're wondering. That's how people know I'm an entrepreneur. It's my yoga pants.
So fun fact, I wrote a post this is a while ago and it just blew up. I guess it went viral according to whatever viral is, where I said, I will never not be grateful to live in a world where women can run, six-figure businesses, multiple six-figure businesses, wearing yoga pants and picking kids up from school. The fact that we live in that world, I'm so thankful for it. I remind myself of that every day. So there you go.
So what is it? If we dig in there a little bit more, what we're talking about here is it's the freedom and the control, right? Both.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And Zoom helps.
Oh, Matt, you're jealous because you still do the in-person network situation every once in a while.
So just so you guys know, hang on, this is important.
Don't tell me you have yoga pants on.
Show. Hang on.
Golf pants, at least.
Yes.
For those driving in the car right now, Matt just showed us he has shorts on. Didn't shave his legs. Not at all.
Oh, my bad.
I am here for it.
So I just want to be known because most days I come to the studio when we record, I'm usually in my button-up shirt or polo, and I'm usually in jeans. Frankly, we're in the middle of summer right now when we're recording this. I'm like, you know what? No one's going to see my pants today. I don't have to go to the office.
Yes.
I'm wearing shorts today. It's not yoga pants, but I'm embracing this conversation.
It's your version of yoga pants.
It is. Thank you.
Okay, so what do you do? What businesses do you own? What type of entrepreneurs are you supporting?
Well, now I primarily work with women entrepreneurs. Not all of them, but many of them are moms. I think that they see me running a business with 3 boys at home and are wondering, how in the world do you do it? They want to work with somebody who gets it, who's in a similar stage of life, who, when you give them guidance and coaching and recommendations, it's going to be tailored to where they're at. I didn't start out that way, though. I started out very much just doing work for whoever would hire me. When I started my business, I knew social media. I knew a lot of it was going to be very much tailored to that. A lot of just, family, friends, and people in my immediate network were saying, I have a small business. I don't know how to do social. This was 2016, right? So social is confusing to me. And kind of started out from there. I just worked with so many different people, did so many different things. Some of the things that I did, I would never do again. But I think that's an important part of the journey to really determine who you want to serve. And then I started noticing, especially as I got into coaching, just how many women were starting businesses and how many women were really needing guidance. Not necessarily for me to come in and do the work for them, but just to support them and coach them. And obviously, given some of the things that have happened in the world since then, there are so many more women, especially starting businesses. I don't have the stats on that. I would actually love to know what the updated stats are, just in terms of percentage of business owners online that are women, or how many are starting new businesses each year. I don't have those, but I know it's a lot just based on what I'm seeing in the conversations I'm having. So it kind of drilled down, my business journey didn't just take the exact path that I thought it would, but I really do love supporting women and having more freedom in growing their business. There's so many talented women out there. So that's kind of where I found myself. And, I'm a big believer in you go where it takes you, right? I know what I want the future to look like, but I'm also very open to what ends up happening.
So moms for sure, but are they service providers then? What are some of your
They
ideal
are
clients
service
for me?
providers. So what that means is they're not selling like a tangible, like physical product. Like soap is always the first example that comes to mind. Not sure why, but it is. So people who are either doing the work for their clients, so copywriters, brand designers, ad strategists, people like that, web designers, and then coaches. So that's another kind of bucket under service provider with life coaches, parenting coaches, business coaches, other people who do marketing
Yeah.
coaches. And so it's very much specific to service providers, meaning you're basically selling your knowledge, your expertise, which is a service. And that's hard for people to do. It's very hard for people to do. I actually think it's more challenging for some people than selling a tangible product
And
that
selling
they
the soap.
maybe need, but like put
Yep.
out there like the soap
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
I'm selling myself essentially.
Right.
How do you do that? You know,
Right.
there's a whole lot of issues that come up and challenges that come up around that I actually really enjoy coaching on.
Yeah.
Nice.
So tell us a little bit more about your story and what led you to entrepreneurship. So you didn't have the 3 kiddos all at one time and decided to do this. I know it was a journey. So was there a specific moment, event, or
Yeah.
experience that happened that you knew this
Yeah.
business coach thing or this entrepreneurship thing, this is going to be my life's work? When did you know?
I come from a line of entrepreneurs. So fun fact about my maiden name is Ziegler. So my family
As in Ziegler.
As in-
Ziegler's apple cider. If
Okay,
you are
okay.
in parts of the Northeast, you're going to know what I'm talking about because
Okay.
that was an apple cider company started by my great grandfather during the Great Depression. He
Okay.
needed extra money for his family. And so he started selling cider door to door. So, like, talk about the entrepreneurial spirit, right? And so I actually come from a line of entrepreneurs. I think it must be in my blood. And so I've always known that I wanted to, and I used to call it like become a freelancer. And so I actually remember while I was in my corporate job, this was before I had children, meeting with some women who were freelancers who were kind of like mentors. I wanted to like just hear from them. How did they get started? Like, what are the things that I should be thinking about? Now, in my mind, I was thinking, I'm going to start this when I'm in my, late 40s, early 50s. The kids are older. Like that is what I was envisioning. And I remember what they were telling me. I'm thinking, I want that freedom. Like I already wanted it, but I didn't take action. Didn't feel like I could maybe until I had my first child. So I have 3 boys. The oldest is 7.5. The middle is 6 and the youngest is 3. He was my pandemic baby.
Yeah.
My oldest was 6 months old when I started my business. And so when he was born, I had been commuting. I live outside of Philadelphia. So in and out of Philadelphia, my husband was also commuting. And I just thought, I don't know how we're going to do this. No judgment to anybody who puts their children in daycare. That wasn't what I wanted, right? I didn't want him in full-time daycare. I had a vision for what I wanted things to look like. But I also didn't want to give up a career. I wanted something else still for myself to be able to use my talents and skills. And so on maternity leave with him, I had people coming my way, like, again, the family friends network saying, I need help with this. I need help with that. Could you? And I started realizing, wait a second, there's something here. And then I had a choice to make. I could either wait and wonder what if, or I could take action. Now, at the time, I was the breadwinner. I was working for a global health insurance company, very much in the corporate world. And it wasn't easy to like make the decision to let go of that. And so I remember saying to my husband, like, I really feel this like pull. I don't know what to do with this. And so we sat down. I remember it was like a Sunday afternoon, like spreadsheets up and like figuring out what would need to happen financially right, for me to be able to do this. Like how much would we need to bring it? All of that.
Yeah.
And he was supportive from day one, which was great. And I just was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. And so I hustled my little butt during maternity leave with my first child, which maybe I shouldn't have done, but I did it. Right. And got a bunch of clients, a couple, not like a ton, but a couple, enough to make me be like, all right, it's time to leave. So I went back to my job for 2 months and I left. That was really, really scary because I left, a cushy corporate job. And our family took a huge financial sacrifice. And I'm going to be direct about that and very blunt about that because I think a lot of people don't really realize what goes into that.
Right.
And I know some people do it, where they work their full-time gig, and have their business on the side until they build their business up. But remember, I was dealing with a 6-month-old. I only had so much like mental capacity. And I realized it was more stressful to try to hold on to both. And I needed to let that go.
Right.
And trust what I knew that I could do, which is hard. Not always.
Yeah. So I point out on the show a few times that if kids can see it, they can be it. So you were getting and drawing on confidence that you had from generations before you. That's what I feel it is. Because you said some people, they don't mind the daycare. I don't know that a single mom, when they first see that first baby, that they're like, well, I'm going to give this kid to who? but they don't all have those experiences of family to draw on to be like, I can do this. Or maybe there's not a spouse that's supportive, or they just don't see the way, or they don't take action right away. Not all, anybody can jump out and do it. I believe that. But I think if we can draw on those early experiences that we saw somebody before us do it in our own family, maybe not easy, maybe not always, top dollar or something like that. But there was like, you know what? I can do this. I'm smart enough. If so-and-so can do it, I can do it.
It helps to have the support. I recognize that. I'm lucky to have that. But at some point, it's like, okay, are you going to live your life based on what you think is actually possible? Or are you going to just kind of cut out stuff because it feels uncomfortable? I mean, I don't like change or discomfort, but I certainly embrace it as an entrepreneur. And, starting a business at the same time that I have a 6-month-old, learning how to be a mom and a business owner was an interesting journey for sure.
What
Oh
I
my
find
goodness.
interesting is that, you acknowledge the fact, and I was the breadwinner. We talked about it prior to the show today about how so many people are just entering this self-employed, like entrepreneurial world now, whether they're working a full-time job and jumping into something because they bought into some program or whatever it is. But the fact is that some of us who went to college forever, some of us who followed that traditional, I guess you say, career trajectory and worked your way up into the corporate world, and you have that career, you have that income. Nicole and I've talked about it multiple times, even myself and her sitting in that corner office the day I made the decision. I was like, yep, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. I got to figure out something different. I think it's a little bit different of a conversation that you have with your support group and your loved ones than the person who was always that grinder and trying to like make the next thing happen and never went to college, keeps trying out different things. And it's a different spot to be in when you are the breadwinner and you go, you know what? I need to make this change. And it's just, I don't know. I've got so many friends who are entrepreneurs and have done it the other way. And yet you did it that way. I got to ask, what was that Sunday like for your husband?
Well, I did an interview with him actually for my podcast. We did that. Oh gosh, I think it was earlier this year, and he was a really good sport about it. He's a video editor, so he prefers to stay behind. But like,
Yes.
okay, you're gonna make me do this. But when we had everything kind of laid out, he was like, okay, like it was intense in the sense of look at what we're giving up, so to speak, temporarily. But I think he always knew it was temporary, just like I did. Right. It was like, okay, it's not always going to be this way. Like he even said, I knew that if you were already doing the things that you were doing, even initially, like what else was possible. And I think having him have that approach really encouraged me because it did feel scary. And I felt selfish, if I'm being honest. Like we just had a baby. Like I'm asking my family to like sacrifice what I could make, staying at this job. But my gosh, when I look back at like the financials, it's like I've made 10 times over what I could have made if I stayed at that job. And I'm more present and home with my kids. So yeah, he was supportive, but the numbers were a little intense. But at the same time, I do think it was a good exercise to go through. You can't just like throw your hand up and say, okay, I'm just going to go do this thing. Like having the numbers did show me like what needed to happen. And it actually helped me set goals and set mile markers for like what this was going to look like.
If it was ambiguous and you didn't have the numbers, you both could imagine the worst, right? I love when I talk
touch with your numbers as a business owner. Good luck, honestly. Like the times when I'm not paying as much attention to the numbers, I feel it. I feel stressed and anxious. And I'm like, you got to go back to the numbers first.
Yeah. Yes.
It also taught you what you don't want to do, right? Earlier on in the interview today, you said there were things that you will never do again. You got to tell us, give us a hint of something. Like, what's that thing that Michelle says?
I don't know if this person will ever listen to this. I'm not going to say names. It was a product-based, it was a cookie company, a person who made macaroon cookies. I was doing taglines and like he messaged up, which, okay, messaging is great, but it was almost like doing some branding work, which I am not a branding person. So it wasn't that I took it on like knowing I couldn't do, I was just trying to explore, right? So this wasn't like an integrity issue, but literally went back and forth and negotiated the project down to like $240 or something like super, super cheap. And not only that, was emailing me on Christmas Eve saying that she didn't like what I provided or whatever. And it was so stressful. And I'm like, for $240? Like, are you kidding me? Like, why did I allow that to happen? So that's an example of just learning how to, number one, like not be in a position where you're negotiating things down like that. But then number two, having boundaries. I shouldn't be responding to client stuff on Christmas Eve when I'm with my family,
No.
It's not fun. I mean, being an entrepreneur is interesting. My husband's like, man, you got a lot to say. Because it still happens even at this stage of my business where I'll be like, you know what? Go work at Starbucks.
Yes, yes,
He's like,
yes.
you're absolutely 100% not. Like I tell my clients, it's normal to want to burn things down and go work at Starbucks. It's just kind of like a release. You just say it when you feel like things are tough. And I've had a lot of tough times in my business, very tough.
Yeah. I will say someone else has answered the first question that we asked you. They have said, like, when you know you want to burn it all down to the ground and then
Yeah.
start again.
And at Starbucks. So maybe that's my second. Can that be my second answer?
Yes.
Every quarter you say, I'm going to burn it down and I'm going to go with it.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Michelle, let me ask you though, you just hit on something that is, there have been some hard times and some really hard times. When was one of those times where you really had to work through a really hard time?
There are so many things. I won't mention the most recent thing that I dealt with last week just because it's a little too fresh, but I'll mention other things that are similar to that. I mean, the first was obviously losing 3 clients in one day, a year into business when I barely had just built up a client base. And that was 2 months prior to giving birth to my middle son. So I was like massively pregnant. You're not going to get a long-term retainer client when you're going on maternity leave in 2 months. I'm certainly not going to go out and network in person when I'm like massively pregnant, but it all happened in one day. And I literally sat on that couch and thought to myself, is this a sign? Like, should I not be doing this? So I let myself feel, all the feelings for 24 hours. And I was like, no, you're going to get back on the horse. Like, I don't even remember exactly what I thought, but just like, you've come too far to let this go, I think was the thought. Then ended up connecting with somebody through a Facebook group who needed some, short-term work for 2 months, which was amazing. And that turned into a longer relationship. So I share the other side of that so that people know, like, you can come out on the other side. I honestly think one of the challenges, and this is probably going to continue to be a challenge as my business grows, is as you serve more people, you do your best to please clients and to make them happy, but you can't make everybody happy. And 3 years ago, right after I had my third child, I had a client who, there was a lot of accusations thrown at me about certain things that I won't share here, but really hurtful things were shared. I shouldn't have taken a maternity leave. Like there was different things that were shared with me that were just so hurtful, right? To hear from another client. And so that was very intense. Like that was an intense time. All of this seems to happen around when I have a child. So good thing I guess I'm done having kids. But my point in saying all that is that upsetting people unintentionally or having clients that are upset over something that you can't control, those are hard things to navigate. As you serve more people, it can be really challenging to be in the service industry. And so I think those are other times that have felt really hard to navigate. But I always just try to think to myself, okay, what can I do here? Like, I can't control what other people think or how other people act, but what can I do? What can I do to either make this right if it is something that I need to take accountability for? Or if it's not, like, how can I hold my head up high and continue showing up with integrity? Like, that's all you can do. And so I feel like that has led me through a lot of those difficult times. I mean, there's been times where sales have been slow. After hitting 6 figures, I had a really, really slow year where some of it was intentional in the sense of I needed to kind of, now that I reached 6 figures, build things back up in a different way because I couldn't take on all of these one-to-one clients. But it was really hard that entire year of sales being slow. And to still continue to show up and continue to market and sell. I understand now that it's all helped me build more perseverance, more grit, but it doesn't feel fun in the moment. It feels really painful. I just kind of grit my teeth, go through the pain, but then also realize like this is growing me and stretching me as a business owner. And to be honest with you, if I ever reach a point where I'm not being stretched as a business owner, I think that's a bad place to be because it means that you're complacent and you're probably not putting yourself out there and doing scary things.
What was it that made the light bulb go off when you said you hit 6 figures and then you immediately had a bad year because you had to rescale it, rebuild it all back up?
I hit it doing all one-to-one work and I had so many calls. I could barely keep up with all the calls. I had started to incorporate some group type programs and offers in my offer suite, but I hadn't really built them up enough to like be able to relieve me. And I just realized like I need to shift how I'm doing things. I can't take on all these one-to-one clients. And so while I made the shifts in terms of, marketing and selling my group program, like when you shift in your business to putting more effort and time and attention behind another offer, sometimes you do see a dip in revenue. I actually think that's very common. People don't talk about it because there is a belief, at least in the online world, that every month should be bigger and better.
Yes. Let's talk about it.
I was even buying into that a little bit at one point. My husband was like, if you look at like Amazon or, Facebook or whatever, their balance sheets, these big companies are not just, it's like all over the place. And, anytime you launch a new offer, or you introduce something new to the market, you're going to see dips. When you invest, I've heavily invested in my business this year. And so our profit margin is going to be lower, not bad, but lower, right? Like people don't talk about that though. It's like, it has to always be better. And I think that leads to significant pressure and significant burnout. We're seeing that. I mean, in the online space in the last, I would say 6 months, I've heard personally of 3, 7 and 8 figure business owners shutting their doors. I'm done. I can't handle it anymore.
Wow.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
And those are just the 3 I've heard of. I've heard rumblings that
Right.
there are more, but I haven't extensively studied this. It's hard to serve people. It really, really is.
I've been told many times by a lot of lawyers, you've never practiced enough yet until you get your first bar complaint. Because someone's going to be mad at you for something, In your guys' world, it's probably a 1-star review on Google or so. I don't know, right? You've not served enough clients yet until you get that first 1-star review on Google, right?
Oh man. Or until you've gotten hacked or someone tries to use your face on other things. That's when you know. That's when you know they're like, oh,
okay.
they're using my branding images. Okay.
Right.
Trying to scam my people. Got it. So I love this conversation. And we were able to talk with one of our other guests, Dave Valentine. We can add him in the show notes about what it really takes sometimes when either you are introducing a new product or you are investing, which means an investment of time somewhere else. You have to also give. What we try to share on the show is the good, the bad, and the wonky, right? Like there are some things that just go a little weird. And we love to remind everybody about that because it isn't this steady growth up and to the right all of the time. There are going to be these times where you're going to be like, oh man. And, and working with people, my favorite phrase is people are people-y, right? They're still people and they have their own stuff to deal with. And when we get into their stuff with them and their business and their baby, they're people-y and you got to work through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
I think
many.
we're seeing online just this narrative of I should be further along. Results should come faster. And I think it's making people even more impatient than they already were. And that impatience paired with the emotion that you're talking about can be explosive for a lot of people. A lot of people, I think, struggle with that. And as a coach, as a service provider, you have to maintain that neutral kind of ground. And that can be hard too, because you're also a person who
Right.
feels those emotions as well,
Yeah.
No matter how much money you're making in business, you're going to deal with those emotions. More money doesn't solve that.
No, more money, more problems. So let's talk about that. I want to talk about the last time you were distracted in your business by some type of shiny object, but you're also serving a lot of business owners. So if you want to go down that path and what you see the business owners, if they could just get this through.
I would say for me, distractions happen regularly in the sense of less about new shiny strategy and more about, maybe we should be focused on this or where I'm navigating and guiding the team. And it wasn't until I hired an operations manager who was like, what I've noticed is you'll give an idea and then the team feels like they need to take action on it right away. And I didn't realize that was happening. Or that, I was splitting the team up in terms of things that they were focused on instead of having them all focused on a singular goal. It sounds so simple and like a no-brainer. But when you're, running a business and you have all these ideas and all these things you want to take action on, simplifying is very hard for me because I want to do all the things. Vroom, right? It's let's go, let's move. But that's not what the team needs. So that's how distractions show up for me right now at this level of my business. How I see them show up for my clients is comparison, watching what other people are doing. And if someone shares, I got results on this platform or I did this, I created this reel and it went viral. It's now I have to go do that. And they move away from being consistent and leaning into one thing and doing it over and over and over again to start to achieve mastery. They don't give themselves the time and space to do that. It's also hard to do that when you're not seeing the results crop up immediately.
Right.
And so, of course, people are going to be more tempted, I think, to compare and look at what others are doing. That tends to be when I see, or they didn't set a clear goal, or they set a goal of how many clients they wanted to get, but they didn't figure out, well, how many sales calls do you need to book? There's a missing link there. And I think that can lead to distraction as well, because it's it's not working. I'm not getting the client or I'm not booking calls. That's because they didn't set specific goals and then determine what is that strategy to getting there, or reset them and they're not following it because they feel like it's too simple or it should be more. I think we live in this world too, where it's more gets you more results, more money. And I actually don't think that's true at all.
Yeah.
Has there been a time when those distractions resulted in something that was oh, wait, this is actually a good idea. I'm glad I focused in. I'm glad I leaned in more on that idea at the time.
Yeah. I think that there have been times where someone, through the act of taking action on something and maybe it didn't feel good and we explored why it didn't feel good, it actually showed me that they really want to do this other thing over here, but they've been too afraid. So yes, that has led to some good results. what's interesting is for me, what led to like one of my big aspects of my business was losing 3 clients in one day. So kind of having it stripped away. It's like, wait a second, because what happened is I had no leads. I had no pipeline. That's why losing 3 clients in one day was such a problem. I'm not saying it's fun or you should like, go sing in a song.
Don't aim for it.
Happens to you, right? But like it shouldn't stress you out too much in the long term if you have that pipeline, if you have those leads. I didn't. And so I didn't even realize in that moment what was brewing in me was like, I never want to be in that position again. And I don't think anybody else should ever be in that position again. And so that's what led to me creating a community, creating my Facebook group, which is how I market myself. It's where I make the most money. And that has led to me making so much more money in my business and growing my business so much faster. So it wasn't necessarily a shiny object or like a distraction. It was more so like what was stripped away from me. But I think that was a good thing too, because I think all the work that I did prior to that of like marketing in all these different ways and all these different platforms did lead to that too.
It's so interesting to me because I get to see you on the other side, right? I get to see some of those lives or replays, and you've been doing those for quite a bit of time. So, I will say it's surprising to hear you say you didn't have a pipeline. You didn't realize you needed one, because what I get to hear is you give us some tough love in that group about sales, about being salesy, about realizing it's about service when someone's confused on what sales really is. So share with us a little bit about that group and what they can expect. And of course, we're going to link it in the show notes.
Yeah. So it's called Market Like a Boss. And I mean, Market Like a Boss is essentially you showing up, selling boldly, being in control of signing clients and making money. I truly believe that that's freedom and security is when you can be in control of that. Now, how do you be in control of that? You don't be in control by convincing people to buy. That is salesy, right? You're in control because you're selling every day. You're taking action to serve people, to offer value, and then to tell them where they can get more. I mean, if we really drill down marketing and sales, like, can we let it be that simple? Because I think that for so many people, they're being shamed by selling. It's like, oh, no, you shouldn't sell. Oh, no, you should sell this way. Like, I just think that's a new trend that I'm seeing. And I'm like, I hate it so much because I think so many people are barely selling, barely telling everyone what they do, and then complaining that they don't have clients. So in Like a Boss, I do my best to share resources to help you be in control of signing clients, be in control of booking sales calls, be in control of making money in your business, and work through the challenges that you have doing that.
I work with a lot of real estate agents, and I'll tell you, it's funny because I ask them all the time. I go, how many people today have you told that you're a real estate agent? Like physically.
Just told them.
Just
I already
told
know
them.
the answer. I already know the answer.
I'm not saying go on Facebook and say, oh, just listed, just sold. No, I'm saying have an interaction with, let somebody know what you do. And then from time to time, maybe ask somebody, hey, if you're thinking about, using somebody, why don't you give me a call? Like that's asking for a sale. And yet
just making the offer. Yeah. People are not making the offer.
They're just
of what
not. And I don't
offer.
get it. I don't understand.
Well, they're afraid. There's a couple of fears, if I can just elaborate.
Yes.
Please, by all means.
Couple of fears that I think come up to play here. Number one, they're actually afraid to get the client because they doubt their ability to serve them. This was something I dealt with where I noticed on sales calls, I wasn't like really selling. And then if I did and the person said no, I actually felt relief. And I'm like, why the heck am I feeling relief if we're not getting a client? Like, this is ridiculous. And what I realized is because I was putting so much pressure on myself to deliver results that it was easier and more comfortable not to get a client. I see that come up all the time.
Okay.
I also see people afraid of like, what will others think of me? Because again, there's been so much conversation online about, selling too much and you shouldn't be sending out cold DMs. And okay, yes and no, like you don't have to get into that. There's different elements there, but like so many people talking about what you shouldn't be doing, I think leaves people feeling like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be next. I don't want someone to talk about me, right? And the third piece of this is they're afraid to hear no. What does a no mean about me? It means that I suck, that I'm not good at what I do, and that my leads just went down. I now have fewer opportunities to get clients because I heard no. So they don't directly ask. Or if they ask, it's like, let me know. Let me know if you want to work together.
All right. So this is going to go deep here. And that third point you just said, I mean, you open up Pandora's box here. I think I'm going to say something here, and I'm willing to take criticism from both of you on this. But as I've been doing more interviews recently and talking to more people as far as in the workspace, so to speak, I have seen something with younger people specifically. This is my interpretation, is that they have not heard no a lot, or they have worked in a environment where it's always achievement unlocked. You have to achieve this next level, work your butt off and get to this next level. No one's ever really telling them no. They're just saying, oh, congratulations, you just did this. Now go to the next level, go do the next thing. And they're not getting, no offense, they're not getting the rejection that they might need in a real world sense, not like a social media rejection, make them feel terrible human beings, but like in the real work life or real professional life, I should say, hearing the word, no, we're not going to hire you for that. No, we're not. I don't know, but it's something about younger people that I've been having these conversations with. When I ask a question in an interview, say, tell me something you failed at miserably or something that like, you didn't get hired for or whatever. What was that? And nobody has a story anymore for that.
Yeah. You'll get no criticism from me on that. I completely agree with it. I think I'm on like the brink of like almost not being a millennial, I guess. So I do feel like there's a mix of like, or I think elder millennials like me who heard no.
Yes. Aren't we like exennials or something?
Like I'm an elder millennial, so I didn't get all the participation trophies and all that, but it was easy for me to hear no and to be rejected. Now I understand that it doesn't have to be taken personally. It doesn't mean it's fun. But I think a lot of people really haven't heard that, or they haven't gone out and tried enough things to fail. I have had my clients recently, and my coach has done this for me, make a list of all the things that they're going to go fail at. I have a bunch of things on my list right now that I'm actively doing that I'm trying to fail at. And it's super uncomfortable. Don't get me wrong. It's super uncomfortable. But like, that's how you actually achieve more success is by having more failure. And listen, I need that reminder too. We all do.
What are some thoughts on how we can make sure that people hear the word no? Because when you said that they have those fears, if I can talk about the no one for a minute, I'm going to maybe be a little harsh, but if somebody has a fear of no, they should stop what they're doing right now, pack up their desk and go start applying for jobs. They probably can't even get into the barista spot at Starbucks. There's going to be a whole lot of no's. And so I hear one of my team members in my head right now, but Nicole, that's what people are dealing with right now. Either they're starting or they've been going, or they're tired of hearing no, or they're burnt out. And I just, like rip that band-aid off, go find something else to do because you can't have that fear. Like you have to just keep running to the roar and accept the no. There's so many no's and there's going to be so many yeses, and one no gets you closer. It seems like just my mantra. Until you say it, I don't realize some people are dealing with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are actually two schools of people. There are people dealing with it who want to work through it and not pack up their desk. And so absolutely, I think getting coaching, getting support, like normalizing the fact that we all hear no. I think even just normalizing it's really powerful for someone to be like, oh, I'm not alone, because being an entrepreneur is also very isolating in some ways.
Yes.
I think that based on what everyone shares online, everybody is killing it. Nobody's hearing no. They're on their, yacht with their whatever. But do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that we are so isolated, but we have access to so much information, but it's not really information. It's just a highlights reel. So I do think there are people who need support and coaching to work through that. And absolutely awesome. It's okay that it's not easy. I just feel like in this world, we are hit by so many messages of like, this one thing will get you where you want to go. And I don't want people to feel like they also suck and they need all this stuff because they're not capable either. I don't know. I feel like we've gone in so many different directions as an industry that I just want people listening to know, like, it's okay if it's hard. Of course it is. You're doing something that you've never done before at every level of business. Like now I'm at multiple six figures running a team of 3 people. I've never done that before. It's hard. So I think we need to normalize that. But then at the same time, let people know, like, you are also capable. Not capable of like getting results immediately and instantaneously because that's not normal, but like you're capable of continuing to try. I just feel like so many people are packing it in because they've been told it should be easy and you should get, $1 million overnight. This message of like, you shouldn't have to do a lot in business and it should just come really easily, I think is a harmful message. I also don't think that we should just be saying business always has to be hard either. I don't really know what the middle ground looks like, but that is something that has just been on my mind and was kind of brought up through some of the conversations we're having today.
But only if I knew how to build a funnel. You're only one funnel away, though, from $1 million, right? Anyway.
So what do people do, though, when that message is put out there? Like, they're not enjoying the journey. And listen, I've been prey to this before, too. Who hasn't? But they're not enjoying the journey. They're just like, I'm looking for that one thing. I'm one thing away. And they're creating so much stress and anxiety that they're forgetting to look at their progress and all the work that they've done. I have to coach so many clients around this. It's like, look at your progress, celebrate progress. And they all just want to think about what they haven't done. And it's like, you might as well not be an entrepreneur then because you're not enjoying the journey. You're making it 10 times harder for yourself.
Yeah, but there is a subconscious thing. Nicole and I have talked about it so many times where as an entrepreneur, you're always looking, even if you do achieve that thing. Yeah, we celebrate those successes, yes, but we're always looking, what's the next thing on the dry erase board that I was going to work on? What's that next thing? So it's kind of the bane of our existence, right?
It
kind
is.
of like
It is. I'm so guilty of it too. Like everything I'm saying is not because I've arrived or figured it out, but I just feel like this is a message that needs to get out there more. Because
Yeah.
right now we're being hit with this message of like, I worked, 2 hours this week and made $10 million. Like, well,
Yes.
oh, you gotta work too. You gotta
Yeah.
work too. And it's work that can be very challenging, especially if you don't see the results right away.
Right.
That's when
Yeah.
Nicole looks at their funnel, reads their copy, like, BS, you did not make $1 million at Schwab's.
Or you didn't spend 2 hours on this. You really should go back and read.
You really should go back
Right,
and
right.
write
I
the
know.
copy.
Oh.
Exactly.
So I think, this conversation, there is something there because I remember when we started this show that somebody here locally standing in front of me, I already knew what was going on in his business because I had a relationship with one of his large vendors. And they were saying that they were holding a large 5-figure check from him. And he stood in front of me and, he was like, hey, how's it going? I'm like, good, things are good. And things are good. So I could say that things are good. I'm like, how are you, man? You need support? How are things? And he's like, no, man, it's great. Biggest month, like it was just like so much what I knew to be bravado, right? Because if it were me, 30K, 50K check out there, I want my check. It's owed to me. And I thought in that moment, had he said something like, man, you know what? It'd be really great if people would pay their stuff, or it would have been an open door to like actually support him. Oh, what have you tried? How is your invoicing? Or whatever. It could have been just like this conversation of like two people who know what it's like, that it is hard. We all know it, whether some of us like here admit it and some of us don't. And I remember thinking in that moment, where is the safe place for entrepreneurs to do that? Because they don't feel like they can always do it out in public, if you will, right? To me, social media is like high school 2.0. Like you're not going to admit something that you wouldn't admit out in public. I mean, even your granny might see it. So like you can't. And then when do we slow down enough to admit it, even in our closed door, in private groups? But even then, like, are we engaging in a way that like those are places that can be really, really supportive? So my question is always, when can these real messages get said to those people? And I think it has to be in these private, smaller group settings, whether it's in a Facebook group or, like how you do consistently day in, day out, you are making sure that they get supported and eventually maybe get to work with you. But either way, you give
I
and
feel
give. And
alive going on in my group inspired by this. So I'll be sure that I think we have to be willing to go first, right? Like I have to be willing. I want people to be vulnerable and like share that kind of stuff. I have to be willing to do that. Now there's an oversharing as well, right? Like I'm not going to overshare. Something just happened. I'm going to wait before I share it. So I think there's a balance here.
Not in that 24 hours you were on the couch per se.
Exactly. I think that I've been very transparent and it served me really well. I think that there's just a need for that. A lot of people have actually said that's why I've hired you. Someone needs to hear that message because a lot of people are afraid if I'm transparent, it means that I don't look professional or people aren't going to work with me. And that's
I love it. She said it. We have to be the ones willing to go first. Matt needs to hear that. A few episodes back, our buddy Freund told him like he needed to get vulnerable on LinkedIn. And he's like, if people find out that I didn't get the deal, why would they want to hire me? And
we stand out just by being vulnerable on LinkedIn. I mean, those are not two words that go together, LinkedIn and vulnerable.
I know. What's one key lesson that you've learned as an entrepreneur? Maybe a mantra you find yourself saying again and again to yourself or to your team?
I'm going to work it till it works. I'll always figure out a solution. Not right away. Not even the second or third time, but I'll keep going.
I love that one.
Michelle, how would you define your entrepreneurial success?
Perseverance, grit, and drive.
Yoga pants, flip-flops.
Awesome.
Where's the number one link that you want us to know about? We will link anything that you've shared with us already in the show notes, but where's the one place if someone were to want to chat with you and get to know more about you?
Market Like a Boss Facebook group.
Awesome. Guys can come hang out too, maybe if they're dads.
No, guys. Sorry, guys. We do keep it women focused. If a guy wants resources, though, I do have a podcast, Like a Boss podcast. So that is also a great place to just kind of like hear many of the conversations that we've had today.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
Again.
I'll
Thank
see you
Thank you,
online.
guys.
Thanks.
Take care. Hey, it's Nicole, and that's the end of the interview. But stick around. This is the part where Matt and I break it all down and give you our favorite takeaways. Listen in. Hey, Matt, that was great with Michelle just now. Loved every second of it.
Every minute. It was awesome.
Yeah. In fact, I just want to point out that in the past, sometimes, we've had a little bit of a struggle getting business coaches on that we really wanted to hear from that could really give great stories, great examples.
Speaking of, what's your first thing? What's your first takeaway?
My first thing is the lies we tell ourselves. It's not a sentence she said, but it's what I heard in my head when she was sharing about her early journey into entrepreneurship. She was talking about how coaching or consulting was something she thought she'd want to do later on in life, 45, 50 plus. And she said, for whatever reason, I just didn't take action on that. And I heard my own story in that. I remember being at a certain age, younger, having appetite for business and marketing and consulting and telling myself, well, that's something when I have gray hair. Joke's on me, I grade really early, but I still didn't take action. Like I still didn't take action on it. And just hearing her share that, we all continue to tell ourselves some sort of lie, some version of something.
Mhm.
And I think it's just a great reminder, whether beginning of the journey, midway through, whether you're at 6 figures, trying to get to the 7-figure mark, thinking everyone's already done all of the things. There are lies we tell ourselves, or like thinking that a 7, 8-figure business owner that she mentioned, like 3 of them are closing up shop, like to think that those things don't happen. They're just lies that we tell ourselves. So keep yourself rooted in facts is really what I took from that.
Ditto. That's all I'll say about that. That's
Yeah.
crazy because it doesn't matter where you're at and what level of the business you're in. Things are happening, and you have to just constantly remind yourself that you don't have to believe in the lies that you tell yourself, because
Right. Because they're
the facts
lies,
speak themselves.
right,
Yeah.
that we tell ourselves. Like even we talked in the show a lot about like messaging that's out there, that things are easy. No one's ever said it,
No.
but they imply it. And then we take this inference as,
Yep.
as gospel truth. And we need to, quit telling ourselves lies.
Well, speaking of those types of, we'll call it lies, sometimes in the industry and messaging that goes out, I think it's this thing regarding hockey stick growth, this idea that everything is going to be easy. Everything's just going to keep getting better and better. And you're going to have a more profitable month and a more profitable month. And you'll have more followers, more listeners, more, whatever. It's more and more and more.
Mhm.
And I love how she brought up the fact that, well, look at any other major corporate, look at Amazon, look at Facebook, their profit margins go up and down when you look at their balance sheets. It's not
Right.
this hockey stick growth that just maintains forever. She even had a great story about how she realized that in her own business where it hit her, like
Mhm.
how it was a time where she finally hit her first 6-figure business. She's like, oh, I'm here. I made it. Well, what did she have to do? She had to adjust the business. She had to do something different. And because of that, she had a lower year the next year, right?
Right. Yes. Ugh. The worst when that happens, and it does happen. Okay. So the last one came there towards the end, me asking, what does it really take? Because entrepreneurs, they put up a front for all the public reasons, not
Mhm.
to show failure, right? They don't want
Right.
their family to worry, or that they don't want people to think something, whatever that is. And then, of course, there is like, how do you even get their attention long enough to say, like, hey, you're in a safe space. Like, here's a gated Facebook group. Here's a community that you can belong to, certainly what we hope to be. And she just said it plain as day. We have to go first. If we want to be a place that people can share and trust, be vulnerable, we have to go first. We have to do it so they know that, hey, this is a safe space to do that in.
Well, hopefully
have
the
to do
show does it sometimes too for some of the
I
listeners.
like to think so. I like to think so. I do. I do. Well, like we always say, if you're listening,
Keep listening.
you've been listening to the Serial Entrepreneur Show, produced by the team here at SmartCookie Media.